Hey everybody, it's Mark again, and I'm working on a couple clocks. I'm waiting for glue to dry. I have to order some yellow paint to finish my Schmeckenbecker Hoffenbras clock. But I thought I'd work on this clock. I'm not gonna do a lot to this clock. And the reason why, this is a shield clock, okay? And this clock was made after 1850. And the reason why I say that is because the time train is on one side and the strike train is on the other side. If it was made before 1850, the time train would be in front of the strike train. The problem with these clocks, and I have a few of them, and then I'm still messing around with them. This board right here is extremely thin. This is a porcelain base. It is cracked in two places, one right here and one right here. The dial is porcelain and it is not cracked. There's one little chip in it right here at the 12, but other than that it looks perfect. But the problem with these clocks is the porcelain face and dial is held into place by this little hook that goes into a hole in this thin board. After a while, that board cracks, and most people, when they pick up a clock, they pick it up from the face, and I'm most people. So with the clocks that are very important to me, I'm adding a different wooden frame where I'm putting eye bolts for these hooks to connect to. It's just that I just got way too many clocks, and so the only thing I'm going to do to this clock is adjust the hammer. Let me get something to point with. This happens to be a clothes hanger that I cut up today. Inside here is the hammer, and it comes down and it goes up. It's not hitting the gong. It's a simple fix. And there's no pendulum leader wire on this clock. The clock does tick when I pull on the chain. So all I have to do is add a pendulum leader wire, come up with a pendulum, and adjust that gong lever. Let me go ahead and adjust the gong lever a little bit. Maybe I got it adjusted right. It's a count wheel system. And I have to pull on the chain harder to trip it. The hammer still isn't hitting the wire, so I need to adjust it a little bit more. Maybe I could do that without breaking something. It's hitting now, but it's too close. It needs to have that space from it so you can get a vibrant sound. Something happened to where the hammer has dropped. I think I messed up this spring. There we go. It's still too close. Let me adjust it off camera. Stand by. Now it sounds a little bit better. I'm gonna trip the lever out of the count wheel. I'm gonna try to. And so I'm happy with that. Like I said, now I have to come up with the pinion leader wire. And I might have to give this thing a drink of oil. But I don't really want to take this out to do that, because these boards will crack easily. So I might have to put my toothpick inside to give it a drink of oil. Now I bought these clocks over a year ago. Now I bought them off one of my group members. The guy's name is Mark. He's in Florida. And I paid, to include shipping, $75.67 for both clocks. One clock I got for $26.75. The other clock I got for $13.49. This is the clock that I got for the top clock, $26.75. As you can see, it has that same board. He threw in another porcelain base, but it's broken. He threw in another two more porcelain dials. So a lot of people don't like these clocks, but I love them. Wooden plate, wooden movement, porcelain base dials. There's a lot of these shield clocks that are wooden dials, but the porcelain dials are harder to come by if they're not broken. Like I say, this is a really nice dial here. And I did another video where my friend Mary sent me a porcelain dial that's in perfect condition. I will come up with a clock to put that on. Now, a lot of these clocks come with these side doors. Now this door here doesn't belong to this clock, but you can see where it has the wires that the hinges fit in, and you can see here where it's got this slot that goes in a hole where this little keeper keeps it connected. This one I believe goes to another clock of mine. I've got too many clocks, to tell you the truth. It's hard to keep up with all the clocks if you have too many clocks. I got bit by the antique clock bug really hard, and when I see a deal, even if I don't need a clock, I will buy it because to me it's a heck of a deal. I've wasted a lot of money gambling, alcohol, you know, chasing women. These clocks give me pleasure. So, and you have something to show for it at the end of the day. Whether you take the time to get them working or not, that's a different story. And so, the pendulums for these clocks, let me get another clock so I can show you what they look like. This is a clock that door goes to. As you can see, the hinges fit, everything fits. Now the pendulum for these clocks is like this pendulum here, which is basically a flat piece of metal that connects to a wire, and then it has a bob that goes up and down on this flat piece of metal. And this clock has an alarm on it. That's one of the reasons I haven't finished this clock, because I haven't played with the alarm. There's 2 holes in the bottom of this clock that a string catches this wheel, and that's part of the alarm system, but it's not hooked up. There should be a bell on top of this clock, I believe, for the alarm. It also has a gong, but anyway, getting back to this clock, for temporary purposes, the only thing I'm going to do is take a round bob, a wooden bob of some sort, and I'm going to shove it on this wire just to get it to tick-tock. Now, I've already made this one. I don't have a bob on it, but I got the holes drilled, the wire bent, and I'm going to show you how I make one. I've got some pretty strong, I think it's copper wire, but anyway, you got your holes drilled, you select off a piece of wire, you bend it at a 90 degrees, and where your hole meets your next hole is where you want to bend the wire again to put it in that hole. And as you can see, it don't fit perfectly. However, stand by. The shield about fell off the clock. Like I said, it's a porcelain shield. It's glued to this thin piece of board. And then there's holes that these hooks on top catch into. On top and on the bottom. This hook and this hook. And then there's like little nails that go into that board also. I took the face off so I can give the wood a quick drink and give it some oil. I'm not going to take it all apart, but I took the time side out. The strike side, because it has these thin plates, a lot of times you'll break them. So it's working. So I'm not going to take it out because it's working. I'm not going to take it apart. And so I'm going to put it all back together. And give it a drink of oil and go from there. But I wish they would have made this differently. Yeah, Velcro wasn't invented back in the day, but they could have added eye bolts to this wood to where these hooks go into eye bolts versus the little hole that they have. It's just, I got it upside down. It's just that I don't trust it. And so, anyway, I'm going to continue putting it all back together. Inspecting the parts, you see this pivot here? Now look at this pivot. It's worn down. It needs replaced. Good thing I got my lathes to do that. But this is the second wheel. The clock will never run because this pivot is broken. So I'm going to have to put a pivot in. You can see this. This is the second wheel. I already told you it needs a pivot. However, I'm trying to get it focused in. It also doesn't have the part that the pivot goes in. This is escapement wheel. I'm gonna get it. You got. Let me find something to point with. You got this part right here. That's the pivot, the arbor, and then this is the pivot. This pivot needs replaced also. As you can see, it's got grooves in it. But at least it has the arbor. So the second wheel, it needs not only the pivot, I need to learn how to use my microscope. not only needs a pivot, but it needs the shaft. This right here. It's broken off. Or this lantern pinion has came too far forward. And I'm thinking that's what happened. The lantern pinion came too far forward. But it still needs a pivot. The pivot is too short. Here you should be able to see the lantern pinion came too far forward. And if you look really close, you can see where it used to be. So I need to push the lantern pinion toward the wheel. I put a pair of clamps where the shaft changes color. So I'm going to have to heat this up because I believe it's soldered, and hopefully it'll drop down, and hopefully my clamps won't drop. Well, I got the bottom part moved down to where I want. As you can see, it now has a shaft. I think I need to move it down a little bit more. But in the process, the top section came off, which is no big deal. You just put them back in and you add some solder. On a side note, if you want to practice drilling out arbors to put pivots in, start with some round dowels like bamboo sticks. This is bamboo skewers for $1. Believe it or not, the arbor for this black forest shield clock is smaller than these skewers. So if you could drill a hole in one of these skewers, you should be able to drill a hole in the arbor. Let me see if I could. As you can see, I was able to drill a hole in this arbor. I'll get out my microscope here in a second and show it to you. But here I have a wooden dowel, and it's a thicker dowel than those bamboo skewers. It's this big. So you want to start by using a center punch, and with the dowel, you barely tap the center punch. Because if you go any bigger, it's going to split out the wood. And hopefully I got it in the center. And as you can see, I have a hole in this dowel. Now, I still need to get my Jacob's chuck connected to this lathe because some of these collets are not big enough for me to do what I want to do. You can start by putting a tapered end in the collet and forcing it in. Hopefully it'll force in. Maybe it's big enough. And then cutting off a piece of wood. But before you can drill a hole, you have to work with a flat surface. So that's what this Dremel is for, to get me a flat surface. I've got a flat surface, but when I turn this thing on, it's too wobbly, and it's because I can't get the thing into the collet enough, and so I'm not going to be able to show you with this. What I can show you is with the drill, so stand by. So I tapped the center hole, or what looks to be center to me, and so putting my drill bit into the hole, turning on the drill. and I can't look from the side. And as you will see, I have a hole in this wood. However, do you see the split? It split the wood, and I wasn't quite dead center. My point is, before you start drilling on your pivot shafts, maybe you should practice on some wood first to get your technique down. Now this is the pivot shaft that came off that clock. If you look, if I can get it, the hole is almost dead center, and the reason why it's not quite dead center, well, actually it is, what you see, the extra stuff, is solder from them putting the lantern pinion on. And Mark, you really need to get your stuff together. You've seen me use these in other videos where I put this over the shaft, except for this is too big. And one would imagine that I could have done the same thing with wooden dowels versus the aluminum rods. This wooden dowel would have been perfect for me to cut a hole and slip over. You're gonna have to make the pivot hole first. You'll cut a piece of wooden dowel off, drill a center hole for the size of the pivot, and then drill another partial hole that is the diameter of this arbor. And then the concept is you put it over the arbor and it's not going to move, and you got your center hole. That way you can drill to start your pivot hole. And then once you get it started, you take the pivot alignment tool, I guess that's what you would call it, off, and then using your drill bit, finish drilling the hole the length of the pivot that you want to put in. Now, I ordered some pivot wire from Time Savers yesterday, so I'm not going to cut up any of my drill bits. I'm going to wait for this pivot wire to come in. I not only need it for this, but I ordered some smaller wire to replace this. And this piece here is broken. I'm going to see if I can put it back together and super glue it or solder it, super glue, and anyway, it needs to put back together. To make one of these pieces, I thought about it and thought about it and thought about it. It would be extremely hard. But if I was going to make one, I would use a penny to make one. But you would have to be really precise in making this thing. If I had a hole saw that small, the diameter of this thing, yeah, it would be easy to make. But I don't, and so when I say it'd be easy to make, I would still have to punch in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tiny, tiny holes. Put it in the microscope so you can see it better. Those holes are extremely tiny. They're less than 1 millimeter in diameter. And so, and like I said, this is cracked. So I'm going to have to try to fix it. If not, I'm going to have to try to make one or find one. I might have a clock around here that has a lantern pinion on it that I could use. But anyway, that's where we're at. Currently, I don't have internet services. They're putting fiber optic cable in my area. Woohoo! And so I'll have faster internet. But they had to shut the main box down to tie into it. And so it took out everybody's phone line and internet. So I got my order in from Time Savers, and they didn't mark it. They put all this pivot staff in this one bag. So what I need is something close to 1.23 millimeters, 1.22. So I have to go through all these and measure. Sorry, wrong wheel. What I need is something close to 1.7. 1.17. So anyway, I have to go through all this stuff and find something that will be close enough. This stuff here at 89, it's 0.89. It would be good for the lantern pinion that I have to repair, or something smaller. But I have to go through all this stuff and find a pivot that I put into the arbor for the second wheel that I had to drill out. And so I wish they would have put this stuff separately. And marked the bag somehow. But they didn't, which, you know, I've got the capability of figuring out what I need and putting the big stuff back in the bag. That way I can get down to the smaller stuff to measure it. And I find something close enough. If it's a little bit bigger, I'll just put it in my drill and sand it down some. But that's what I'm going to continue doing. I found 3 that were 1.18 millimeters, so I got them taped up, put them back in the bag. I got a piece off that I need, and so we'll continue on with that. And I have a drill bit here that's 1.18 millimeters, so I'm going to drill out the hole just slightly. That way that pivot fits right in there. You should be able to see there the way the pivot staff was cut. There's a slight deformity, and so I'm going to take a piece of sandpaper and get rid of that deformity. That way it fits in the hole. Now it's been a couple hours and it's not quite dry yet. However, it functions, and then it gets to a tight spot, and I don't think it's this wheel. I think it's because I put this wheel too far forward of the movement and it's hitting this brass piece here. I don't really know. But I'm getting there. I just not quite there yet. I think I might have the teeth spread too far apart because I drilled my holes too far apart on this lantern pinion. And it helps when I turn the wheel in the right direction. I need to go down, Mark. Y'all haven't been able to see what I've been doing. I really need to fire my camera person. As you can see, the wheel turns, but then it gets stuck in certain spots. And I can push it and it continues to turn. And I'm putting light pressure on it, you know, with the weight on it, it might work just fine. And over time, it might put those pins where it needs to go, because now it's functioning better. The true test is when I put the birch and crutch assembly, the chain on, wait, and see if it ticks. But I'm happy with this right now. So here I am working on this black forged steel clock again. The pinion, lantern pinion gear I told you broke. So I took a penny and I made this part right here. Yeah, it's not perfect. And then I put all the pins in the bottom part, and then I use this high strength Loctite on it. And as you can see, I let it dry 24 hours. As you can see, that stuff is hardened. I tried putting the pins in the top part and putting it in the bottom part, and this thing is just so tiny, it's very hard to work with. So that's why I chose to secure the pins in the bottom part first. I say the bottom part because the bottom part, the holes are not, for the pins are not completely drilled out like the top part. The hole goes all the way through. So now I have to put this top part onto this bottom part, and with the pins being secured, hopefully under magnification, I could be able to get that in place. Like I said, the top part it's not perfect. It's not completely round, but I think once I put it on and put it back into the movement, I think it'll work. I might have to grind some of it off, but honestly, I don't know. I tried making the top part out of different things, and the penny is about the same thickness as the original part, and so that's why I chose the penny. So I'm going to try to put this top part on this bottom part off camera. Here I have it all together. You might be able to see the pins come through the penny. I'm going to use that Loctite again and secure it down. Even though this is not the wheel for it, when I move it around, it bits into the pinion gears. But the only true test is put it all together and see if it works. But I'm going to use that Loctite again on it to secure those pins in. Typically, they are soldered in. Well, I'm not going to solder them in. I'm going to use this Loctite. And now I'm going to let that dry for a good while. Afterwards, I'll cut the excess off and grind it off and try to make it look prettier. I don't know whether this is going to work or not. You know, this is my first time making one of these or repairing one of these. I take that back. I put pins in them before. My old neighbor had an antique American clock that they got from her grandparents or something. They never seen it work, and the issue was some of the lantern pinions were broken, so I replaced them. But I never had to make the top portion because it was broken. And so I don't know whether it's going to work. You know, that's the cool thing about working on clocks. You experiment, you try different things and see if it works. And if I have to, as a last resort, I've got this Seth Thomas clock that's been in this box for a few years. I could take the lantern pinion off of this wheel and put it on my Black Forest clock, and it will work. It's a little bit bigger than the typical lantern pinion in the clock. This is an escapement wheel. However, it will still work, but that's a last resort type thing. Eventually, I might get back to this clock one day. I doubt it, but I might. Now I put the wheel back on, and I put the lantern pinion on the shaft. It still needs to dry some more, but when you put it on, it's not where it needs to go. But when I put it on the wheel, it's turning it, so it's looking promising. Again, I don't have it in the holes. I want to let it dry some more. But as you can see, it's turning the wheel, and so it just might work. Now it's been a couple hours and it's not quite dry yet. However, it functions, and then it gets to a tight spot, and I don't think it's this wheel. I think it's because I put this wheel too far forward of the movement, and it's hitting this brass piece here. I don't really know. But I'm getting there. I just not quite there yet. I think I might have the teeth spread too far apart because I drilled my holes too far apart on this lantern pinion. And it helps when I turn the wheel in the right direction. I need to go down, Mark. Y'all haven't been able to see what I've been doing. I really need to fire my camera person. As you can see, the wheel turns, but then it gets stuck in certain spots. And I can push it, and it continues to turn. And I'm putting light pressure on it, you know, with the weight on it, it might work just fine. And over time, it might put those pins where it needs to go, because now it's functioning better. The true test is when I put the virgin crutch assembly, the chain on, weight, and see if it ticks. But I'm happy with this right now. It's working somewhat, but I think I'm going to let it dry some more and then clean out all this stuff that's in there. There's a bunch of dirt and crap from me using that high strength Loctite, so I'm going to let it dry some more and clean it out. And the crutch assembly is not quite adjusted right. With this particular clock, the way the crutch assembly is put on, this lever here swings out, so you can take the crutch assembly out. But anyway, I need to let it dry some more before I screw it up. So my lantern pinion that I made, it's not working. And it's because the pins, there's one pin right here that's got too much space in between it. And so, yeah, I could make another one of these things, but I spent way too much time on this thing. So I'm going to take that Seth Thomas lantern pinion. But this wheel, it's also crooked. And I tried straightening it out by putting it in a wooden block, but it's not working.
So I drilled a hole in my metal block here, and I'm going to put it in there and straighten it out. I can live with that. I really wish I had one of these that was designed for clocks. There's a guy over in the United Kingdom, he makes them, I've seen one. But this is too small for clocks. It was designed for watches. So instead of using a staking set, I'm going to have to use my board. And by the way, instead of me using one of the regular wheels, this is for the governor fan assembly. So they should be easier to find than a regular wheel. Of course, I grabbed the wrong staking set. It's pinging over my material. I'd grab a different one. And hopefully I'll get the job done. Feel it moving. I need one with a smaller hole. I might have to drill me one with a smaller hole. The boards are cheap, but the hole is too big. So I'm going to drill one with a smaller hole. Now, the lantern pinion will not go inside the hole, and I drilled it all the way through, so I should be able to push this thing off. That's what I didn't want to do. It came apart. But I should be able to use this on what I already have. But I want the rest of it. There. And I believe the hole is smaller than the shaft. No, it's a little bit bigger than the shaft. I guess I measured wrong. But I think this has to go on top of this, which the hole is smaller than the shaft. So I'm going to continue working on this off camera. So the lantern pinion gear that came off the St. Thomas clock has got 7 holes, where the lantern pinion gear that came off this clock has only got 6 holes. I wanted to keep the bottom section. I might have to use the bottom section from the St. Thomas clock, but I'm going to have to drill out the center hole. But as you can see, there are 7 holes in this lantern pinion that came off the St. Thomas clock. But I'm going to try this anyway, because I just felt like it. So anyway, I got to wait for that Loctite to dry. It normally dries in a couple of hours where you can work with stuff. But anyway, I'm going to try it anyway to see if it'll work.
it's only my time